Father's Day. We call it Bring a Man Day, because not all the young men have fathers to come with them. So we know that there is a generation that's lost, but everything starts at some point.
Yes, sir.
So there are many parallels between what the nation has been doing and what I've been doing working with colleagues in the solution room. So this is a complete socio-economic reformation. And the first thing is, we have all the funding and money that we need.
Yes, sir.
We don't need to apply to anybody.
That's right, that's right.
There's no such thing as taxation without representation. So what we're organizing our melanated family to do is teach this economy they're not deserving of our taxation. And we're creating a national campaign for all African Caribbean-owned businesses to donate 100% of their taxable income to a charitable vehicle. The purposes of that charitable vehicle are to purchase freeholds up and down the country. Not leases, we're not renting anywhere. Freeholds, to place them in trust. The purpose of those freeholds is to create schools for our children.
Come on now.
In tandem with this fund, we have a consortium of educators who are creating an African Caribbean educational curriculum. Now this African Caribbean educational curriculum is for all of our children, regardless of their shade, their boat stop, their religion, because we have to find some commonality for us. Now, we're not going to duplicate what they do. This is starting from the ground up, because you have to have a rites of passage. There's a reason our children don't have citizenship, because they have no rites of passage. We put them into indoctrination centers where we give them to European women by and large who have no empathy whatsoever for our children.
That's right.
Every single one of us love our children as much as them, but we give our children to them. You've never seen a lion roll in mud and get mud in his mane, because lions aren't educated by pigs in a pen.
Oh, that's right.
But we are. We give our children away. And when we see that culturally, spiritually, and any other way, our children do not represent our community or our values, we're angry and we're confused. And again, we're reactionary.
Yes, sir.
But there's no need for us to be reactionary if we take charge. So although these infrastructures will take some 3 years to put in place, we look at it as today is the first day of that.
Come on now.
So we punish them, not by asking for reparations, which is like chasing unicorns, because we're not militarily in a position to force them to give us reparations. But our reparations are in our pockets, our taxable income, and we're going to take that back. So I don't speak on the charitable vehicle, because they're not going to see it coming. I don't concern myself with security forces recording me. I know I have double tap. I'm not concerned. But my colleagues are snatching intelligence from everywhere, from within the education system, from within local authority, from within their hospitals, from within their banking institutions. My people are filtered throughout that. Because in the UK, we're in every single part of their economy, which is why I speak on economics. So I don't blame Europeans for white supremacy, because it's this. Business is warfare. And all you've got to look on it is, this is a commercial landscape. And what white supremacy relies on is a manipulated share of the market. Our role is to grow and emerge and solidify our marketplace. Their role is to stifle us. So it's not a problem. When I look at Europeans, I look at lampposts. They're not in my way. I will circumvent them by going to their left or to their right.
That's right.
So I do not speak on them.
Go ahead, D.
I learned 2 lessons from Garvey and from Malcolm. And the biggest lesson of Garvey, in all of his amazing convictions and execution of what he did, was that you must learn to extrapolate your ego from the equation.
That's the one.
We are not omnipotents. We are not gods. There's expertise that is far greater than mine that I would rather bring in place so that it represents the correct body to be in the room. And when the security forces, headed by this transvestite, betrayed our brother, it was because he engaged his ego. So the first thing we have to do as men, and I say that in the presence of women, who we're supposed to serve and protect and be our brothers' keepers, is that we need to extrapolate our egos. Because sometimes they bring us to a place where we reach such a precipice, and then based on our personal opinion with this man, there's nothing that can happen, because I can't work with him. But that's ego. This is not a thing of men. This is a thing of males who are to be separated from men. And I learned from Brother Malcolm as he came out and he spoke about crackers in reference to Europeans.
Yes, sir.
We have this thing where they occupy so much of our cerebellums, but they're actually irrelevant. So I think the first role of our people, especially leadership, is to extrapolate Europeans from your central consciousness. As you're in a room speaking as you do as family, don't see them.
That's right.
They're not there. They're not in your way. They're irrelevant. They bring no contribution to your household wealth.
That's right.
They have no feeling of empathy for you whatsoever. But what we do, we consume our life with conversations about them. They have no relevance. Extrapolate them from your central consciousness. Because then the minute you do that, you're going to see Africans through African eyes. And when you see Africans through African eyes, there's no way you can see your brother as a threat. Because he's you. And she's you. Your woman and your man, your brother and your sister, all have exactly the same thing in their chest that you do. We love our children. We want to provide for our families. And we want our families to be safe. That has nothing to do with anybody else. So why concern ourselves with them?
Good point.
So in this socio-economic reformation, I've talked about buying schools. But this is a complete ecosystem. Because this is not to replace white supremacy. I have no truck with it. At the moment, I operate my own business, and me and my son's mother homeschool our child. So I don't have any relationship with it. I have not had a doctor since the year 2000. I have not had a dentist since the year 2000. I have taken no prescription drug from the year 2000. Because I operate, if this system went dark for 2 days, it will be a wrap. But I'll be fine.
Yes, sir.
I'll be exactly the same as I've been for 17 years. And incidentally, I've had no sick day from business for 17 years. I'm fine. My son has 0 vaccinations, despite of them telling me he has to. So, we are the architects of our destiny. The minute we understand and decide we're the architects of our own destiny. So, I digress back to the ecosystem. One of the things that we are forming is our ADL, an Anti-Defamation League, just like they have in Acne. Why wouldn't we? Because anybody is free to speak on us anytime they feel like it. And they represent our image.
That's right.
We are going to represent our image. So currently, we're also building a news gathering agency, an African news gathering agency. And this isn't just here. This is in the States. This is with African partners and Caribbean partners. We're collecting all African-owned media so that the minute we are attacked, and there is a PR note from our ADL that goes to our news gathering agency, that goes out day and day to every single one of our own media. So we hit them and put them under heat. They got no moral authority on anything because they're kidnappers, murderers, rapists. And they make a movie, and that movie will turn into a party that has fireworks. Go and look in Iraq. What was their incentive for going in? What was their mandate and what was their justification for invading that country? None. It was a movie backed up by fireworks. So my time is short because I was late and I apologize. I'm going to wrap up just to say that nothing works in isolation. And when you look at us, we are perfect creation. A tree emits what I ingest, and I emit what trees ingest. I ingest oxygen. This is perfect. Trees ingest carbon dioxide. This is a perfect relationship. So in order for anything to have continuity and consistency, it has to be within an ecosystem. So our schools are the first point of contact. When we educate our children, we are now creating citizens. When you look at a boy that says, I'm my brother's keeper and my sister's protector, before the assembly, and if you look at a headmaster that's at the front in my position and says, touch one, touch all, and you get 500 of our children look back at it and say, touch one, touch all, there's no way we're going to be threatened by anything. Thank you for inviting me down, Brother Justin. Thank you for having me, Brother Nicholas. Thank you, Brother Justin. This is put your hands together again. That was amazing. I'm very pleased. I'm glad that we did invite Brother, and I'm sure you all enjoyed this. Let's have one more round of applause. FOI, Brother has a wonderful suit shop you may have seen on Facebook, Suits Direct in Camden, so I'm going to give you a plug because you was that good. What I want to say, we're here today on a Sunday, and why we're here every Sunday between 12 and 2, but why do we come? Because that which the spirit that you heard coming from that brother came among us in 1930. This isn't new. This isn't something that just began today. Brother's speaking on principles that you are hearing resonating among our people, but it wasn't always like that. Somebody came and sowed that seed, and over the last almost 100 years, that seed's been growing to give us strength. That one who came, he actually gave us the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he taught for 44 years amongst black folks when we were not so readily receptive of you as you have been today. And he worked and gave us huge notaries like Malcolm X and Muhammad Ali, and to this day the most Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan, the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And when we come here every Sunday, it's to keep that spirit and to keep that word going. And the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan isn't allowed in the country at the moment. So even though he hasn't been allowed here, and we haven't heard, he hasn't been here physically since '85, and they didn't let him speak to us when he was here in 1985. He hasn't spoke to us directly for the last 17 years. But he's here every Sunday. He arrives in his representative every Sunday to give you a message direct, because our representative here is in direct communication and has been for, I couldn't even tell you the amount of years. He'll fill you in with that, but as long as I've known him, he's been in direct communication with the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan to keep that word and be the vanguard of that word among us. That's why we can be so receptive, because we're fed well. That being said, please put your hands together and hear from the representative of the Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan, Minister Hilary Muhammad. Thank you.
Thank you, brothers and sisters. Thank you. Please be seated. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, we give him thanks, we give him praise for his goodness. We thank him for the various messengers and prophets that are so various that we cannot mention them. Because Allah says in the Quran that there are messengers and prophets that we know, and there are messengers and prophets that we know not. But he has sent divine servants amongst every people. So regardless to where you go, what society you go in, you always find luminaries, whether it's amongst the Chinese, whether it's amongst the Japanese, whether it's amongst the Asians, whether it's amongst the Indians. Every community have produced wise illuminaries. They might not call themselves Christians, they might not call themselves Jews, they might not call themselves Muslims, but every people have received divine warners and guides that have helped them over eons of time to understand the universality of our Creator. As black people who have suffered under Europeans during the worst Holocaust day, any human being has ever had to suffer, known to us as the transatlantic slave trade, which was a business for Caucasian people. But their business was the original people, the kidnapping, the raping, the destroying, and then the trading of original people who were at that time located in Africa. We were all over the planet, but this European focused on the black man and woman in Africa. He destroyed us absolutely, pretty much completely, and just left a human being who had no knowledge of their origin in the world. So when you have a tree or a branch on a tree that's not cognizant of its root, then all you have is a branch. You actually don't have a branch that's a part of the tree. You have that which has been isolated. So as a people, languishing in the West, not knowing our connection, not just to Africa, because that's a new name for that continent, but our connection to the originator of the heavens and the earth, our connection to the originator of the universe.
Think about that.
We were robbed of that connection. We could learn all the African history there is on the earth. It still wouldn't give us the power that we need to be the great people that we once were. Because our greatness didn't start in Africa.
No, sir.
As original people, this earth is our home.
That's correct.
Did I say the earth is our home?
Yes, sir.
And as a people, our fathers traveled the whole 57 million or 59,255,000 square miles of it.
Yes, they did.
Is that correct?
Yes,
or did I say
sir.
59? He called us Negro. The word Negro, nigger ain't got nothing to do with complexion or color.
Come on, that's right.
That word nigger means that which is dead.
That's what it means.
And we were dead to the knowledge of ourselves and the knowledge of our origin in the world, the knowledge of the time and what we should be doing, and dead to the knowledge of who they were and are. We were dead. So he labeled us as a Negro. Nothing to do with our color. Because we thank God for coming and finding one among us who he could use to disgrace the slave master.
Yes, sir.
He was looking for one who had hardly any education from this beast's institutions.
Yes, sir.
And he found a man named Elijah Paul. Man who watched black people being lynched as he was walking to school in the South in Georgia. God found him, raised him, and poured into him wisdom that had not been known for over 66 trillion years. What wisdom had not been known for 66 trillion years? That God has always been a man. And for 66 trillion years we have worshipped everything other than God. Did I say everything other than God? But God has. Those who are in bed with Satan ain't going to be able to teach you about your nature. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
You didn't hear what I said?
Yes, sir.
But they are not going to be able to teach you about real Islam. Huh? This is why when Prophet Muhammad was in Mount Hira, when he was a man who loved solitude and just to get away from the madness of Arabia and the idol worship, he would go into Mount Hira looking for solitude. And he said an angel came and visited him named Jibreel and gave him words to recite. Now that angel was a man. It wasn't a spirit with wings. It was a man. A man. Where did that man get the wisdom he shared with Muhammad? He got it from another man who he was representing. So when we speak about angels, we're not speaking about people with wings. That's Kingsdale teaching. That's the kind of William Penn and these silly schools teaching. But an angel is just an illusion selected one who Zinedine Zidane didn't play, but he was the coach. And he was so